This is short story, Beneath the Canopy of Oaks. Enjoy it. The blacksmith awoke shortly before dawn. His wife, Etnis, was still asleep, as was their son, Dalin. The blacksmith went down to the cellar, packed a small bundle of food, then stepped into the forge, took his cloak lying by the cold hearth, and fawned. The sword pleasantly weighted his load. The blacksmith slung the scabbard across his back, pulled the hood of his cloak over his head, and took the small food bundle in his hand. His path lay from his native Padeil to the neighboring village of Maran, where a merchant had promised to gather a couple of leather bags with horseshoe blanks for him. An easy task, 3 leagues one way and the same back, half a day's walk with a stop in the forest for lunch. The blacksmith had walked this route countless times, and it held no danger for him, despite the beasts roaming the woods and the bandits forever lurking along the Vizima tract. He had learned how to avoid them all and keep out of trouble. Farin, his wife, called out as he was leaving the forge. She stood in the doorway of their home, so beautiful and gentle in the rays of the rising sun. The bearded, mighty blacksmith smiled warmly. "Why did you come outside? You'll catch cold. It's cool this morning," he said as he stepped up to her and gently embraced her. At that moment, Dalin appeared in the doorway, still not quite awake. At 13, he was already ready to move from junior to senior apprentice. "Looks like I won't leave without a farewell today." The blacksmith ruffled his son's tousled hair. "Light the hearth. When I return, we'll melt the horseshoe blanks," he added, looking at the boy. Dalin nodded. The blacksmith kissed his wife, clapped his son on the shoulder, and set off down the main road. "Light steps to you, father." Dalin's quiet farewell reached him. "Be careful," added his wife's loving voice. The blacksmith turned back, his blue eyes smiled, and his feet carried him onward. When the new day fully claimed its rights and the sun began to warm the earth, the blacksmith left the Vizima tract to avoid bandits and turned into the forest. Through the sparse oak grove, he could cut the distance and by noon rejoin the road that would lead him straight to the village of Maran. Beneath the canopy of oaks, through whose branches sunbeams pierced here and there, the blacksmith walked more lightly, more joyfully. Though at his homestead he was known as a stern master, on such short journeys he allowed himself to relax. He was crossing a shallow ravine when he ran into bandits. Only about 1/4 of a league remained to the main road. Apparently they had sheltered in the forest to divide their plunder. A bulging purse hung at the blacksmith's belt. He needed something to pay the merchant with. There were 6 bandits, and they immediately noticed the money. The sword the blacksmith swiftly drew from its sheath did not go unnoticed either. Word by word, the fight began. The blacksmith was no master swordsman, yet he wielded his native fong skillfully and with eagerness. He managed to cut down 3 and wound 1 when the leader crept up from behind and struck the blacksmith on the crown of the head. He recovered quickly, losing sight of the 2 remaining enemies only for a moment, and immediately rushed after the fleeing bandits. But bursting into a small clearing flooded with sunlight, he saw only a tall old man before him. No robbers, no murderers. Only this man in a filthy robe with a barely recognizable face. "Greetings, Farin," the old man spoke in a creaking voice. "Old man, have you seen 2 robbers who ran through here?" "Forget about them, Farin," but how the old man stepped closer, and then the blacksmith recognized him. "Held? The sage who lived near my forge? But you died many years ago." "Farin, you are dead as well," the old man replied calmly. "What are you saying?" The blacksmith spun around and ran back to the place where the fight with the bandits had taken place. And he saw the surviving robbers were searching his own corpse. Even those two whom Farin believed had escaped into the forest were there. The sight struck Farin like the blow of a smith's hammer. The thought of death pierced him like the edge of thong. The blacksmith tried to grab one of them by the collar, but his hand passed right through the brute. The man merely shuddered and went on gathering the scattered coins. Is this some kind of bad dream? No, this is limbo, the sage-held answered behind him. You will relive your death until you come to terms with it. You, Farin, will fight these men again and again, and you will not even remember it. I don't believe you, old man. Farin began to rage. The mighty blacksmith hurled himself at the bandits in a futile attempt to defeat them, but only exhausted all his strength and, losing consciousness, fell into darkness. He awoke again in the forest. Before him, the bandits. Again a brief exchange, a battle, and the meeting withheld. Then the news of death, and again the darkness of oblivion. And again the forest, the bandits, the fight, death, and darkness. Again and again and again. Time after time, the blacksmith defeated his enemies, fought them savagely, bargained with them, even groveled, begging and pleading. But each time he awoke in the very same place, killing, dying, and sinking into forgetfulness. Again and again and again at some moment, Farin regained awareness during his conversation with Held. You are in limbo again. Where? Why again, sage? Farin did not recognize his own voice. It was quiet, like the rustle of grass. Because you are dead, Farin. Once everyone knew me as a blacksmith, the best in the district, a master of my craft. He remembered. Here, it no longer matters who you were. Only your name remains, the one given at birth, Farin. How much time has passed, old man? If measured in mortal lives, a year has passed since your death, and I will keep dying until I accept it? If you ask that question, then you already have, came the reply. Farin silently nodded, once more watching as the bandits robbed his body. Since you have accepted your death, Farin, it is time for you to see my true form, the old man said. Look at me. Farin looked at Held, and instead saw his deceased father, Atris. Father, all this time it was you beside me? Old Atris embraced his son. Yes, only after your acceptance could I reveal my true face. Soon we shall rest together in the gardens of the Enchanted Land. The Enchanted Land? The mighty Farin asked in surprise. The place Mother told me fairy tales about in the darkness of night? Yes, you will reach it, but not yet. You have accepted your death, but the hardest thing remains to let go of those you love. Only then did Farin remember his wife, Etnis, and his son, Dalan. Beside himself, he leapt to his feet and ran through the forest toward his home. Dalan was intently heating the hearth, pumping the bellows. The son had grown into a man and no longer resembled the boy who had last spoken farewell to his father. Near the forge, Farin saw his beloved wife Etnis washing clothes in a basin. Over that year she had aged, though she still seemed the most beautiful in the world. Unable to say a word, the mighty Farin fell to his knees before them and wept for the first time. You must let them go, Atris said with the same calm. But I love them, father, Farin whispered. And they love you. But your love brings them pain and suffering. Farin shook his head fiercely. No, he cried, and fell into darkness. He watched his son grow and mature, surpass him in the blacksmith's craft. He watched Etnis stoop and age, giving herself more and more to the household and to trade. He watched them come to his grave every day, weeping and speaking to him. Then they would descend the hill near the homestead and return to their work. And so it went, day after day. And each time, when his father asked, Farin answered no and fell into darkness, forgetting everything, and once again reliving the life of his family, who had lost him forever, again and again and again. And then, at some point, he no longer recognized them. He did not recognize his mischievous son in the bearded man. He did not recognize his beloved wife in the bent old woman. And then the exhausted Farin asked in a quiet rustle of grass, once his voice, of the old man who always accompanied him. "How many years have passed, father?" The old man sighed. 2 decades. And all this time she came to my grave, and our son walked with her. The blacksmith sank to his knees beside his drooping wife, kneeling at his gravestone. His trembling hand fell upon her shoulder. The woman sobbed, and the pain made Farin shudder through his entire being. While his beloved wept, he could not utter a single word. He trembled as she did. Then Etnis was embraced by her son, and he said, "Let's go, mother." They stood up, but before leaving, the woman laid her hand upon the gravestone. "Farewell," she whispered. Farin did not dare step forward, but he answered all the same. "Farewell, I release you." He watched his wife and son descend the hill until they dissolved into the white veil. "And now it is time for us to go to the enchanted land," came the calm voice of his father behind him.